Well, I'll just start off by saying, while we're giving it a minute, that the ANOER committee has worked really hard to get student voices involved and to talk to students about how they feel about textbooks. And as you can imagine, the high cost of them does affect decisions that they're making. I didn't realize to what extent some students will put off taking a class until a semester in which they can afford to purchase the book. And I'm sure all of you know that oftentimes students try to get by without the book, and that they've created an arsenal of workarounds that work in some cases and not in others. And when we hear from students that the length of time they spend in college is affected by their ability to have the materials that they need, we know that that affects completion rates ultimately for them, because the longer that you spend taking classes, the more life happens. So Dr. Ware kindly agreed to moderate this discussion and ask Gail some questions about how she feels about how purchasing or not being able to purchase textbooks affects her. And we won't expect her to speak for the whole student body, and maybe a couple other of our students will be able to join us as we get started.
Okay, first of all, I'm thankful to be here. I had the opportunity to talk a little bit more in depth with Sarah as well as Kimberly over the last couple of days about this specific topic. And I actually saw a student walking around yesterday, and we had an opportunity to talk briefly, and I was explaining to them how we were going to have a conversation over AOER. And the first thing the student asked me was, what are you talking about? They didn't know what the acronyms meant or understand it. For those that are in this session right now, affordable. Materials include those provided through license subscriptions at low cost or no cost to the students. And that is the main reason why we want to have this panel with the students, because this is the focus of the conversation specifically. And OER, open educational resources, or teaching, learning, and research materials in any medium, digital or otherwise, that are freely available to use, adapt, and redistribute. And I agreed to moderate this from the perspective of me also being an adjunct faculty member and trying to look at how I could be a better instructor for the benefit of my students. As of right now, we're thankful to have Gail with us. So we've got a couple of questions for Gail. At any point in time, we are expecting the other students who have said they want to participate as well to join in. But right now, we'll go ahead, and if Gail could introduce herself to everyone, as well as tell everyone what she is majoring in while she's here at STLCC.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. So my name is Gail. I'm an early college student at Merrimack, and I'm entering my second semester this spring. And I'm majoring in general transfer studies, but I might do an associate in applied science.
All right, so thank you for being with us. As we're going to ask Gail a few questions, because we don't want to put all of the onus on her, we actually have a couple of PowerPoint slides as well that can kind of back up with the statistical data that has been gotten from the students here at our campuses. So we'll go ahead with the first question for you, Gail. How does the cost of textbooks affect you?
So I got into STLCC through early college at my district. So while my tuition is paid for, they don't cover anything like transportation or materials and the cost of books. So obviously all of that is really new, not only for me, but my family, since, you know, in high school, we don't have to pay for things like books, and I don't have to travel too far to get on campus. So those are all like new costs that my family wasn't used to. So when I told them, you know, I had to pay like $200 for books last semester, they were obviously really shocked by that. And while it didn't like stop me from taking the classes I wanted to, it definitely stopped me from taking like a heavier load like I wanted. It stopped me from like being comfortable kind of approaching my teachers and saying, you know, like, I'm not a traditional college student. I might not be able to have access to all the things that other students full-time have access to.
Do you feel comfortable having that conversation with your instructors about the accessibility of what you have to be a good student while you're here?
With most of my instructors, I am like the support I've gotten from my professors has been like amazing last semester. So I've been able to go to office hours and kind of get help, like making the experience something that um, was best for me and that could work for my family. But I think just like with changing instructors so often, it's a bit difficult to build that relationship sometimes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Before we move forward with any more questions, I want to introduce everyone to Janae Hill. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello.
We look forward to hearing from you. We've only asked one question. I'll ask you the same question as well, but if you could just introduce yourself to everyone as well as tell everyone what you're majoring in.
Hi, my name is Janae. I'm majoring in General Transfer Studies,
Okay. And what campus are you located at?
Forest Park.
Okay. So the same question I have for you. How does the cost of textbooks affect you?
The cost of textbooks affects me because right now, since my financial aid is cut, I have to struggle between paying for my classes, paying for my books, and also my outside life of school, bills and everything as well.
And I kind of asked a follow-up to Gail, but do you feel comfortable talking to your instructors about some of the issues that you might have that would prevent you from buying your textbooks?
I mean, they'll most likely tell me it's in the library, you can go check it out in the library or something of the sort like that.
Okay. All right. Next question I have, I'll go ahead and ask Gail first. Have you ever chosen not to purchase an assigned textbook for a class due to cost? If so, do you think it impacted your grade and how?
So I always tried to communicate with my professors like a week or so before classes started to kind of make sure, okay, like what textbooks do you require for your class? What books do you require? What materials? And kind of like what the flow is like because different professors, have different expectations for when you want to get the book. So I've never like not bought a textbook because I always try to make like accommodations and say, like this isn't a traditional experience for me. So it would help me a lot if we could kind of communicate for me to kind of like find the best path forward in your class.
Janae, I'll go ahead and repeat the question for you too. Have you ever chosen not to purchase an assigned textbook for a class due to the cost? And if so, do you think it impacted your grade? How?
I wouldn't say, well, I would say I have not bought a textbook before, but majority of the times, if I'm able to get it for free, I'll go that route. But if I have to purchase it, I kind of try to make ends meet so I'm not behind in class because it might be something talked about that I'm not aware of.
Can you share how you might get it for free?
Like I might go either to the library, I might make copies, I might reach out to see like somebody online to see, just put it out there like, hey, anybody took a class, textbook like this. But it's kind of hard now when textbooks is dedicated to a specific professor.
Do you all feel that us as an institution are willing to go above and beyond for students that might not have access to the materials they might need for certain classes? Gail, if you want
Oh,
to.
in my first semester, I could definitely tell there was a strong community here. And like from the professors I talked to, I know that all of them were willing to communicate with me and kind of see what my situation was. So I definitely think that there is support as long as students are willing to go out and ask for it.
Janae?
I kind of agree with that as well because when I first started as a freshman, well, I guess taking my courses, I was part of a college band, I guess it was called, like some type of thing that was on campus that was offered to incoming students. And she reached out to me and let me know if I ever needed anything, but I never kind of went that route as far as getting my books or anything because I didn't think that was something that, that they could help with.
Dr. Ware, another one of our students has entered the chat, Brandon Blackburn. Welcome, Brandon. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
How you doing, Brandon? Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm happy to be here. I'm here to express my opinion and my experience as the best I can. Sure.
Okay. So we'll go ahead, and I'm familiar with Brandon. He's a student here at Merrimack.
Yes, sir.
Can you go ahead and tell everyone what you're majoring in?
Right now, my major is associate in business admin. So that's what my major is right now.
Okay, so I'll go back just a couple of questions just to kind of catch you up. With
Sure.
the first one that I asked everyone, how does the cost of textbooks affect you?
From what I've experienced so far, there has been times when I've seen a certain cost of textbooks that has been recommended through the school, which I have found to be pricey, which I didn't readily purchase, but conveniently they were accessible in the library. So that was very helpful to me at doing those courses at that time. So that was a good alleviation for that purchase. So that's what I resorted to. Yeah.
Have you ever chosen not to purchase an assigned textbook for a class due to cost? And if so, do you think it impacted your grade and how?
Not really. No. Based off the courses I've done so far, I have either purchased the textbooks or they were available to me in the campus library. So that's what I did.
Okay. Did someone else just join?
Well, I'm not sure if Abby is here. Abby, are you here with us? I don't see her name, but Sarah thought she entered.
Okay.
We'll let her speak up if she is.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and go to our next question. I've been picking on Gail, so I'll go ahead and ask Janae first. Have you dropped or not taken a class because of the cost of the textbook? And if so, which class was it?
No, I have not.
Okay. What about you, Gail?
I was definitely really hesitant when I was like signing up for classes since I wanted to continue a language class at the college. But when I looked at the textbook prices, like on the bookstore, those were over $100 for each one. So that made me like a little hesitant to do it because I wanted to see first like how much would my other books cost and would I have to balance that out first.
To add to that, when you all decided to come here, at any point in time, were you all focused on the cost of textbooks, or was it one of those things that didn't even hit you until you got here, got enrolled in your classes, and then went to the bookstore?
I agree.
Brandon?
Yes, I agree.
Janae? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And I was more surprised when I see the costs after getting here.
Janae?
And if I can piggyback off of Gail, like science textbooks, because you got to get the book, then the materials to go with it, and that kind of pushed off, me taking that class for a while, because it's like, okay, if this class right here only needs one book, one thing, I don't need to buy nothing extra, and then I got to get it all new at that. It was kind of easier for me to kind of put that class off until I was able to budget for that class, if that makes sense.
No, it makes exact sense. So you're looking at classes sometimes before you sign up to see if affordability is an option for you for that semester.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's exactly the conversation that we wanted to have to kind of get a gauge on with you all being students here. What is it that you all look at when you come here and you're enrolled in your classes?
Yeah, because I kind of look at my financial aid, see how much they'll cover, and then whatever I need to back up after that, like I see which one is cheaper or like the less amount that I have to cover because the other issues, or if it's financially in my budget to cover it.
Okay, and I believe another student, Christy Dokes, just joined us from Forest Park. Christy, how you doing? Okay. Give Christy a moment to go ahead and log in. All right. So I'll ask Brandon. This next question will start with you. Do you feel that you get your money's worth out of your textbooks? Why or why not?
Based on my experience so far, I'd say it has been maybe between 50 to 80% usage of usage of the textbooks in the classes, because there are times that the professor hands out like pamphlets and like give more bulleted points as to what is needed for the course. So there has been time where I didn't need to use majority of the books, but it turned out that throughout the course and throughout the semester, the book was essential. So, it's a bit of both for me.
Okay. Gail, same question.
So I feel like in my classes, at least, the textbook was really used just for homework purposes. So we would learn all this stuff in class, but the Spanish textbook that was so expensive was only that expensive because of like an access code. We learned everything in class, but the only problem was that you had to buy the textbook and the code to be able to do well in the class. And all my other ones were the same way, where you would just have to do homework from the textbook. So I think for the purpose of like learning the class, it wasn't very helpful. But like if you wanted to get practice and study and do your homework, that's where the textbook came in.
I agree.
Janae?
I would say about 50-50. I had a class where we had to buy the textbook. It was $200, and we only used about like maybe 4 or 5 chapters out the book. And then when the semester was over, the book was no longer in use for the class or to be able to sell back to be able to get my money back as well.
So knowing that you had to buy that book, how did that make you feel knowing the next semester coming up that could be an option again, where you're going to be out of $200, you didn't use it much, and then now you weren't able to get anything back for it?
They didn't tell me. I literally, like, after I bought the book and everything, they sent out the email to sell back my book. And then once it was time to sell back my book, they was like, it's no longer used for the course. So it was like, oh, what I'm supposed to do with it? Like, I would never use this book again. I don't, I'm not sure what was the point of me getting the book if I only used it for 5 chapters. Don't get me wrong, I needed it for those couple chapters, but instead of spending that money, I could have just went to the library, or if it was going to be that short, he could have had something dedicated for that couple chapters.
Okay. All right, now we have Christy Dokes with us from Forest Park. Thank you for joining us. If you could, before we get involved with everything else, just tell everyone what you're here majoring in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hello, I'm Christy Dokes, and I'm doing a duo in culinary arts in bakery and pastries.
Okay. And I'll just go back and ask you the first question that I asked everyone. How does the cost of textbooks affect you?
It affects me a lot because most of the time we pay a lot of money for the textbooks, but we seem to not use them. The teacher is always going over the textbook she have on her computer in a class, and no one never has the textbooks out. I have used it a little bit with this last class, oral communication. I used it when I needed to go back over something that I forgot that she talked about in the class, but I don't think that they really are necessary, not today, because most of the teachers already have it and they just teach you from what they have.
I'll ask you one more question. Have you ever chosen not to purchase an assigned textbook for a class due to the cost? And if so, do you think it impacted your grade, and how?
I have chose not to have a textbook before, but no, it didn't affect me in no way. I still end up getting a B in that class.
Okay, so we'll go to the next person. I'll go ahead and start with Janae for this first question. What difference have textbook prices made in your life and your ability to juggle the demands of school with the rest of your everyday actions?
I wouldn't say it put me behind, but it limited the amount of classes I was gonna take for that course or semester, whatever you want to call it. As well as me thinking about the cost and the price, I have to come up with this, so I have to cut something out of my personal life because I still want to grow in school. I had to kind of put a financial hold on some things in my normal life and ask for help to be able to get the book to continue on with my class.
Okay. Brandon, same to you. What difference have textbook prices made in your life and your ability to juggle the demands of school with the rest of your life?
It has, made it slightly more difficult in a sense because I'm not like the average student. I'm an international student, which, my circumstance is a bit different from everyone else's. I don't have access to financial aid. I have to, source all my resources by myself. And so I have to be very, very particular and more, very more concise with how I spend my money. And textbooks has is a big part of that, especially since besides specific areas that the course might require from the particular classes, I don't use them a lot. So it 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 requires me to really be very particular, very, very strict with my finances.
Same for you, Gail.
So, like, not only does it affect me, but it affects my whole family. So I have two younger siblings, right? They're both going to school. My parents are lots of the times they're working like double shifts. And like with early college, then that means not only do I have to find transportation and get books, but then I have to kind of work with this thing where this is something my parents have never done before. And, like it's all like a really different experience. So then I kind of have to be the one to bring it up and say, like my class requires this textbook and this other class requires these materials. So I have to be like that middle person to kind of communicate that with them and say that, like it's a great experience and opportunity, but it also means that we have these additional costs that we didn't expect to have, like if I was in regular high school.
When you all started here, did you look at it from the perspective of juggling other finances or other everyday life issues, based on textbooks? So, you've signed up for classes, you want to take 4 or 5 classes, you're excited about it. Then you come in and realize the caveat that goes with that. Were those thoughts or things that you all, that came to mind when you started here?
For me personally, not so much, honestly. I was more surprised when I was, encountered these prices and, these costs that came with these classes, and the access or more the route that the college wants you to take to purchase some of these books, where I could either use the library or I'd have to really dig and search for alternative sources that could be a cheaper alternative,
Janae?
At first, like I said, I was on financial aid, so I kind of wasn't too really concerned about it because I'm like, okay, it's free, like it's not really a big deal. But when I looked at the bill, I was like, okay, then once I started putting the bill myself, I was like, okay, now I see why, I should have been serious because at this point, I don't have time to go to the library some days because I either work a night shift or a morning shift, depending on my schedule. So it's like I might need the textbook for that assignment that night, but I won't be able to use it. So I got to find some type of way to get it for free online or to be able to look at it or try to see what I can do to be able to give me that.
Gail?
So for me, my financial aid didn't kick in until like the very, very end of the semester. So I had to be the one to figure out like how to get those books since we had to figure that out as our own kind of thing with the program. And I couldn't register for classes for a while since my aid was like you didn't pay for your last semester. And I keep getting reminders about, you have to pay your tuition and stuff like that. So it's definitely a little stressful when I'm trying to like communicate that between like my district and the college, and none of them really like are familiar with it. But I don't know. I think I'm just kind of trying to figure it out semester by semester since we're all kind of new to it.
Christy, same question for you. What difference have textbook prices made in your life and your ability to juggle the demands of school with the rest of your life?
It's not really been, you know, I get my financial aid on time and it take care of everything. I do it way ahead of time, so I never ran into a problem when it came to purchasing textbooks.
Okay. Now I'll ask all of you, do any of you all have friends that attend here that you see a difference in how they're doing based on textbook prices, or them not being able to afford the textbook or getting it too late? Are any of you aware of anybody like that?
Yes, I hear people talking about how textbooks cost too much, or how they be trying to wait to see if other options become available, if they can find somebody that they can buy them from because the books cost too much. And I run into that a lot, people saying that.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I also have friends that have resorted to trying not to use the textbooks and try to get as much information as they can from within the classes, before really seeing if they really do need the textbooks for a while. So,
And the reason why I asked that question is, I think a lot of times if somebody cannot afford it, or if a student doesn't have the ability to get a textbook or understand the resources that we have available, they might feel a bit discouraged or embarrassed or want to say anything to an instructor, you know, and we want to make you all available and let you all do know, the more you tell us, the easier it is for us to help find resources, as well as figure out other ways that we could, you know, effectively provide what's necessary for you. So, and that's why I asked the question, because you'll sometimes see a student, and not to say any of our faculty would do it, but you know, the syllabus says you're supposed to have this, and 1 week, 2, 3, 4, 5, halfway through the semester, they still don't have the text. You know, it's not because that student doesn't want to have the text or doesn't want to be there, but because of personal issues, they might not feel comfortable enough to be able to tell people what they can and cannot get. So that's the reason why I asked that question.
I agree.
Okay, we'll start with Gail for this one. Have you ever used the free, no cost, low cost designation in the STLCC interactive course schedule to make a decision about which course to enroll in? So if you all aren't familiar, when you're registering for classes on the STLCC website, under the interactive course schedule section, there's a part on there that says free, no cost, low cost, that will provide a few options for classes that are available where you wouldn't have to purchase a textbook. Are any of you all familiar with that section on there?
No, I am not.
No, I didn't know that exists.
Me either until just yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't know you could filter it, but when I was choosing my classes, I could see it. I just didn't know like entirely like that was a possible option for students.
Okay, and great, and I'm glad you all said that, because that's one of the things, key things that we'll be able to focus on, to highlight and have everyone understand that that's available for you all. So if you don't know, even when we're finished with this, myself or Kimberly can exactly show you all how to filter that. So at least now you'll have a few options. Now it's not designated for all of the courses, but there are some courses that are available that will benefit you. If you did or will purchase books for the spring semester, how much did they cost or will they cost in total? Jeanette?
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I haven't looked it up just yet. I'm scared.
You said, but why? But that's a good, I'm glad you said that. Why are you scared?
Because I'm gonna have to buy, regardless if it's new or used, and 9 times out of 10 it's gonna be a new one because all the used ones are gone, and it's for chemistry. So it's no telling if I gotta buy the book, the assignment book, goggles, and you know whatever else might be needed for lab and all the extra. So I'm kind of nervous.
Okay, Brandon.
Honestly, I haven't checked it out either yet, because as she said, it's very I can already assume or already tell that it's gonna cost a nice penny for each classes that I'm taking right now. So I should definitely get that information.
Christy?
I have my books. I have 3 books for the spring semester, and they was expensive. I think the highest one was $176. I kind of forgot how much the other 2 was, but I know they was in the hundreds.
Gail?
So I looked up mine yesterday, and I think in total it'll be like upwards of like $200 for the semester.
And one more question relative to cost. And I know you all have been here for a varied amount of time. I'll ask Chrissy this question first. If you could ballpark the entire time that you've been here, how much have you spent on textbooks?
A lot. Let's see.
I've been here since 2019. I'll say about a good 1,000, maybe a little bit more than that. Because I
More
didn't,
than that for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you say, Christy? I'm sorry.
More than that. I would say it was probably in the 2000s or maybe just a little bit less.
Brandon?
Yeah, I think about a cap of 1,000 or so. I don't think it's past $1,000, but close to that.
Gail?
Since it was my first semester last year or last fall, I think like combined last semester and this semester it'd probably be like almost $400, $500.
All right, I've got one last question for you all. After this conversation, if any of you all would want to say anything relative to the cost of textbooks to anybody that's listening in on this panel, and feel free to say anything that you would like. How do you feel about that moving forward? So we'll go with Janae first.
I understand the fear of having textbooks free for classes because people might take advantage, people might not bring them back, people might, and like in regular school, high school, grade school, they might destroy them and it might be, but to the people that's really willing to work for it and really need it, like that's going through financial struggles, that just can't find the money to even pay for the book, it's kind of a big help. It's a big stress relief when I know I'm not missing anything. Like if I can't make time to go to the library, I have a book at home or I have a book readily accessible to me wherever I'm at work, whatever I'm doing, I have a book instead of, oh my God, I gotta call off work or I gotta find a way to stop my money to go all the way to the library to be able to use the book for about 2 hours to get my assignment done. Then, at that point, I'm stopping kind of the flow in my personal world and it's kind of affecting what I'm doing. You get what I'm saying?
Yes. Brandon?
I think the idea of having some of the books available in the library, so students because I'm a student that uses the library regularly, so it's very helpful to me when I go to the library and I have some of the books that I need for my classes there available and I could study there and return the book. I know I can't leave the library with the book, but that's a downside I could live with. And I also appreciate some of the professors that go out of their way to tell students that they don't necessarily need the textbooks and they prepare PowerPoints accurately for what is needed for that class. That is really helpful to me. So if those two options could be pushed out more toward other classes, I think that would be very helpful.
Christy?
I agree with Brandon, but I also think that because college is expensive already, I think that students shouldn't have to pay that much for books.
Gail?
I mean, that's how I feel because
No,
college,
and that's fine. That's
yeah.
that's totally fine. Gail?
So I know from a lot of my teachers at the high school, they told me that in college, like they use resources like the Open Textbook Network or something like that. I think, when I looked at my classes, none of them were accessible on there, but I think it'd be great if teachers or professors could look at that as an option because those are already used and available for tons of other colleges and universities. And, you can adapt that to your own curriculum And, you know, now you don't have to worry about students having to find it on their own. Now you know that all of your students have access to the resources to be successful in your class. And that doesn't have to be a barrier, you know? And
I'll just,
I mean, it's, yeah.
yeah, sorry to cut you off, and I'll ask, have any of your instructors utilized open educational resources as an option where, you know, other materials that wouldn't cost you? Have you all come across instructors or any of your courses like that currently?
I personally haven't. I'm not sure what open.
So open educational resources are the teaching, learning, and resource materials that you don't have to pay for. So they're freely available to use, adapt, and redistribute. So it's not a, it's a chemistry course where it's not necessary for you to buy the textbook, that the instructor has provided a means to act that is accessible for the students in the class.
I see.
Yeah, I have ran across a class like that before. I can't remember exactly which one it was. I can't remember which one it was, but I have had a class where we didn't need the books.
And I know that was extremely helpful for you.
Very.
With me going to school, nobody ever brought that up or said nothing until Miss Hellman. So I don't know nothing about the open book or nothing like that.
Which is why we're having this conversation now, because there are availabilities like that. We do have that here, but we wanted the faculty and staff to be able to hear from you all firsthand. You know, as we're continuing to grow and evolve, everything we do first and foremost is to be for your benefit. And this is a big conversation that we have that numerous areas throughout the district are having, because we want you here to focus on what you all have come here to focus on. We don't want you stressed and worrying about things that if there are other options that are available for you, we want to make sure that we have them. So I want to personally thank you all for joining us. I know it's difficult, especially knowing that you don't officially start classes until next week. So we appreciate you all coming here. I know we have a few more minutes left. So I wanted to share with everyone a little bit of this data that we have. If you can give me a moment. Okay, so if you see on the slide, we have information specific to the student perspectives about textbooks. In 2021, students were surveyed about the consequences of the prices of textbooks. So if you look at the textbooks that cost per term, 15% are upwards to $100, 23% between $100 and $200, 24% between $200 and $300, and 39% over $300. So there's
I think
statistics
we
in
might be
there.
looking at a different slide.
Is that a
Dr.
difference? No. You know what? I'm looking at something different. Don't disregard everything I just said.
I think
So
it's-
just
yeah.
look at the slide. So if you're looking at the slide, we've got the statistics specifically for students who did fill it out. For those that chose not to purchase a textbook, never, sometimes, about 1% of the time, most of the time, or always. I won't go over all of this because I know we don't have much time left, but the data shows the benefits of having open educational resources. And I'll go to the second slide for you. And I know that Kimberly can have this available for everyone after this session is done, so they can look at it personally. If they have any other questions, to reach out to her. And then the consequences of textbook costs, 35% of those respondents indicated the price of textbooks had delayed their academic progression. 58% of the respondents indicated that they had been required to purchase a textbook, but never utilized it in the course. 28% indicated that lower textbook costs would help them finish their degree more quickly. And 28% of students indicated that lower textbook costs would make a big difference in whether or not they could complete their degree. And that ending one, that last percentage, Our focus here specifically is making sure that you all come here and that we equip you with what is necessary for a vast array of things. We want you to be here somewhat stress-free, but we want you in an environment that is effective for your progression. So whether you choose to get your associates, whether you choose to get a certification to transfer, we want to be able to do as much as possible. But we can continue to have conversations like this. I thank you all again. Everybody that is in this session is appreciative of you all. If any of you all need anything from my office or my area or anything from us, I know Brandon personally, and he could vouch for what it is that we're able to do for everyone. So make sure to keep in contact with us. Everybody's name that you all might see in here could be a help in some way. So reach out to them. Take advantage of opportunities like these. These do not come often, and we appreciate you all's candor and your honesty and being open enough to tell us how you really feel in your academic journey. So that's all I have. I don't know if Kimberly has any few words as we're finishing up.
Well, I would just say that these statistics were from a survey of STLCC students, just to clarify that. And if the students want to stay on, I would be happy to show them how to search the interactive class schedule to find the free and low cost characteristics. But okay, cool. We'll hang around. But everyone else, I'd just like to thank you for attending and urge you to reach out to the ANOER. I forget if we're a task force or a committee, but
Council.
We're a council.
Council.
We're open to input. Okay, so always when you go to the interactive class schedule, you have to choose the term. And let's say we wanted to see, I doubt there are any chemistry classes that use, because chemistry, they need their materials, but should we look in biology and see what we can find? So you go here to characteristics and you can choose free and search all the biology classes that may have that. And look at that, you can take Bio 100, Bio 111, and not have to purchase a textbook. How amazing is that?
Okay, I did not know that.
Well, there you go. Now, like Dr. Ware said, you're not going to find that for every subject, but I think it'll increase, not decrease. So
Yes.
Spread the good word.
Okay, thank you so much. And I hope my comments could help impact the change. For sure.
They
Thank you.
definitely will. Thank you all so much.
Okay. Have a great day.
All right. You all as well.
Yes, sir.